Cybersecurity Today would like to thank Meter for their support in bringing you this podcast. Meter delivers a complete networking stack, wired, wireless, and cellular in one integrated solution that's built for performance and scale. You can find them at meter.com/CST.
North Korean spies are sliding into your Facebook direct messages. A new app turns your phone into a virtual getaway car for cybercriminals. Adobe patches flaw that lets hackers rob you by just opening a PDF. The FBI takes down a major phishing operation, and Americans lost $21 billion to cybercrime last year. That's a record. Again. This is Cybersecurity Today, and I'm your host, David Shipley. Let's get started. A new piece of Android malware is making the rounds, and it's sneakier than most. It's called Mirax, and it's been showing up in ads on Facebook, Instagram, and other Meta platforms. Those ads promoted what looked like a free streaming service, live sports, movies, the works. But if you clicked through and installed the app, you weren't getting a streaming service. You were getting a remote access Trojan. A remote access Trojan, or RAT, is malware that gives criminals full control of your device. Keystrokes, photos, passwords, screenshots, all of it. Mirax does it all. But it has one extra trick that sets it apart. It turns your phone into a proxy server. Criminals need to hide where they're operating from. When they log into a bank account they've stolen, they can't do it from their own IP address. That's traceable, and banks have systems that flag logins from unusual locations. What they want is an IP address that looks completely normal, that has a clean history. Someone's home connection, someone's cellular connection, someone ideally in the same city as a target, or even better, in the same neighborhood. That's called a residential proxy, and your infected phone is now providing one. When a criminal routes their traffic through your device, the bank doesn't see a hacker in another country. It sees someone who could be the customer. It sees your address, your location, a legitimate login. That's why this feature makes this malware so much more valuable and so much more dangerous. The malware reached over 220,000 accounts through those Meta ads, and that brings up a bigger problem. Last fall, Reuters published an investigation based on internal Meta documents that revealed the company projected roughly 10% of its overall 2024 revenue, about $16 billion, came from ads promoting scams and banned goods. That includes fraudulent investment schemes, fake e-commerce stores, and illegal products. Even more troubling, Meta's own internal estimates suggest the company was involved in as much as a third of all successful domestic scams in the United States. And each day, Meta was showing users an estimated 15 billion of these high-risk scam ads. Meta says those numbers are overstated, but the internal documents also showed that the company only introduced advertiser verification in markets where it was legally required to do so, and actively resisted doing it elsewhere over concerns it might lose money. So, when Mirax was being advertised through Meta ads as a free streaming ad, it wasn't falling through the cracks. It was landing in a system that, according to Meta's own internal research, has a serious and well-documented scam ad problem. The lesson here is pretty straightforward. Free streaming apps from social media ads are almost never free. If something or someone is offering you premium content for nothing and asking you to install an app from outside the App Store, that's a clear red flag. Walk away. The Mirax story is about criminals using social media as a delivery platform. Our next story takes that a step further. A nation state using the exact same playbook, but with a very different target in mind. North Korea is using Facebook friend requests as a hacking tool. Researchers have linked a recent campaign to APT-37, a hacking group that works for the North Korean government. And the way they're getting in isn't through a sophisticated technical exploit. It's much simpler. They're sending friend requests. The attackers created two Facebook accounts with their locations listed as cities in North Korea, which is either incredibly bold or incredibly careless, depending on how you want to look at it. They used these accounts to identify targets, send friend requests, and start building relationships. Once they had some trust established, they moved the conversation over to Messenger, then to Telegram. Then came the hook. They told their targets they had encrypted military documents to share, but that they would need a special PDF viewer to open them. They then sent a download link. The software looked legitimate. It was actually a modified version of a real, well-known PDF program, but the installer had been tampered with. When you ran it, malware called Rockrat was quietly loaded onto the machine. Rockrat is a well-established North Korean tool. It takes screenshots, runs commands, collects information about your system, and sends it all back to the attackers. What's clever about this version is where it sends the data, not to some sketchy server that security tools might flag, but to Zoho WorkDrive. That's a legitimate cloud storage service. Routing stolen data through trusted platforms is a deliberate evasion tactic, and it works. The broader lesson here is one we'll come back to a lot in this show. The attack didn't start with a piece of code. It started with a conversation, a friend request, a little small talk, a reason to trust someone. Nation-state hackers are patient. They will spend weeks, sometimes months, building up a relationship if it helps get them inside. If someone you don't know reaches out on social media and eventually asks you to install software, no matter how reasonable the explanation, that's the moment to stop and verify through a completely different channel before you do anything. That North Korean story involved a tampered PDF viewer as the delivery vehicle. Fittingly, our next story is about using a critical flaw in another widely used PDF tool. If you have Adobe Acrobat or Reader installed on your computer, stop what you're doing and make sure you've updated it right now. Adobe just released an emergency patch for a zero-day vulnerability. Attackers were already using this exploit before Adobe even knew it existed. The flaw has apparently been inactive since at least last December. Here's how it works. You receive a PDF. You open it. That's it. No clicking on a link inside the document, no filling out a form, just opening the file is enough. The malicious PDF bypasses Acrobat's built-in security protections and can read files off your computer and send them to the attacker. The exploit was discovered by accident. A researcher submitted a suspicious PDF for analysis. The file was literally named Yummy Adobe Exploit, which suggested whoever built it wasn't trying very hard to hide it. When the file was first submitted to a major malware scanning service, only 5 out of the 64 security tools flagged it as potentially dangerous. The other 59 missed it entirely. Researchers also spotted it being used in real attacks, targeting people in the oil and gas industry using Russian language documents as the lure. Adobe has now released a fix, and patching is your best option. To update, open Adobe Acrobat or Reader, click Help, and check for updates. That's it. This story is a good reminder about PDFs in general. They have a reputation for being safe, boring documents, but often they're not. A PDF can carry malicious code just like any other file. If someone sends you a PDF you weren't expecting, especially if it comes from someone you don't know well, treat it with the same caution you'd give any suspicious attachment. Those first 3 stories all share a common thread: criminals getting in by exploiting trust. Trust in ads, trust in a new friend, and trust in a familiar file format. Our next story is about a criminal operation that industrialized exactly that kind of trust exploitation and what happened when law enforcement finally caught up. And here's some good news. The FBI just took down one of the most sophisticated phishing operations ever built. It was called Wall, and it wasn't just a regular phishing kit. It was a full criminal marketplace. For about $500, cybercriminals could buy a complete package: fake login pages that looked exactly like real brands or corporate portals, tools to steal credentials, and instructions on how to do it. The FBI's Atlanta field office worked with Indonesian authorities to seize the infrastructure and arrest the alleged developer. It's the first enforcement action between the US and Indonesia targeting a phishing kit developer. But here's the part that deserves a closer look because it explains why this particular operation was so dangerous. Most people have heard about multi factor authentication, where you enter a code from your phone after your password and how it protects you even if someone steals your password. And that's generally true. Wall, however, was specifically designed to defeat many forms of MFA. Here's how. When you log into a website, your browser and that website exchange what's called a session cookie. Essentially, a small digital token that says, this person already logged in and they've already proved who they are. Wall sat invisibly in the middle of that process. When a victim typed their password and then their MFA code, Wall intercepted both in real time and grabbed the session cookie. The attackers could then use that cookie to log in as the victim without needing the password or MFA code at all. The system thought they were already authenticated. Once inside a corporate email account, the attackers were patient. They'd watch the inbox, learn the writing style, and spot invoices in progress. And then they'd redirect payments to their own accounts. This is what's known as business email compromise, and it costs companies billions of dollars every year. Wall was linked to more than 17,000 victims and an estimated $20 million in fraud. So, yes, the takedown is a genuine win, and an arrest was made. Infrastructure was seized, but here's the context that might temper some of the celebration. Just last month, Europol led an even bigger operation against a similar platform called Tycoon 2FA. 6 countries participated. 330 domains were seized in what became one of the most significant phishing infrastructure disruptions in recent memory. Tycoon 2FA had become a monster. By mid-2025, it accounted for 62% of all phishing attempts blocked by Microsoft and generated over 30 million malicious emails in a single month. The takedown was announced on March 4th. By March 4th and 5th, attack volumes had dropped to 25% of normal levels. And then, within days, the activities returned to early 2026 levels. Same tactics, same targets, largely the same infrastructure, supplemented by newly registered domains. At least 30 suspected Tycoon 2FA-enabled phishing incidents were observed between March 4th and 6th alone. The lesson security researchers draw from this is uncomfortable, but it's important. Infrastructure takedowns, absent arrests, or physical asset seizures impose costs on attackers. That's good. But they don't fully stop them. The Wall operation included an arrest, which makes it more significant. But as long as the knowledge and the business model exist, someone else can and will rebuild. And according to researchers at cybersecurity intel firm Flare, there's at least 850 more services just like Wall out there. As for MFA, it is absolutely still worth using, and the stronger forms like hardware security keys are significantly more difficult to defeat. But the idea that just turning on two-factor authentication would make accounts untouchable was always an overclaim. We're catching up to that promise before most organizations were even finished rolling MFA out. Layered security, combined with user awareness training and monitoring what happens after login, matter just as much as what happens to prevent doors being broken in. When you add up every scam, every stolen credential, every redirected invoice, you get to a number. And the FBI just told us what that number is for America last year. Americans lost nearly $21 billion to cybercrime in 2025. That's up 26% from the year before. And it's the latest in a straight line of record-breaking years. More than 1 million complaints were filed with the FBI's Internet Crime Complaint Center, also known as the IC3. That's also a record. The biggest driver of losses was investment fraud. Scams convincing people to put money into fake cryptocurrency platforms, fake trading apps, fake opportunities that looked real until it was revealed that they weren't. That category alone accounted for $8.5 billion. Crypto-related fraud topped $11 billion. The group hit hardest Americans over 60, who reported losses of $7.7 billion, a 37% jump from the previous year. For the first time, the FBI broke out AI-related scams as their own category. Voice cloning, deepfake videos, fake profiles, forged documents. Forged documents. 22,000 complaints. Nearly $900 million in losses. And that's just the first year of tracking it. The FBI also reported some recoveries. They froze about $680 million in fraudulent transactions through financial intervention efforts. That sounds significant until you see it against the $21 billion. It's about 3 cents on the dollar. And against the likely real total losses, which could be as high as $200 to $400 billion last year, given that only 5 to 10% of cybercrimes are reported to police, the recovered amount looks even smaller in comparison. One detail stood out above everything else. The FBI's Operation Level Up proactively contacted nearly 4,000 people who were in the middle of being scammed, and 78% of them had no idea it was happening. 3 out of the 4 active victims didn't realize it. They were in the middle of a scam and believed it was real. That's the whole game. Not breaking through your firewall, not cracking passwords alone. Convincing you, slowly, patiently, convincingly, that what you're seeing is legitimate. It's beneficial. It's going to help you. And that's why all of the stories today we covered matter. Fake streaming apps, fake friendships, fake PDFs, fake login page. The technology behind each one is different. The strategy is often identical. That's Cybersecurity Today for Wednesday, April 15th, 2026. I'm pleased to announce we broke into the Tech News Top 10 at number 6 in both Israel and Sweden, along with our regular top 10 listings in Canada, the United States, Saudi Arabia, and Japan, which is awesome. Thanks for listening. Thanks for leaving your ratings, reviews, liking, and subscribing, as well as sharing the show with others. We'd love to reach even more people this year, and we continue to need your help. Jim Love will be back on Friday with the latest headlines.
We'd like to thank Meter for their support in bringing you this podcast. Meter delivers full-stack networking infrastructure, wired, wireless, and cellular to leading enterprises. Working with their partners, Meter designs, deploys, and manages everything required to get performant, reliable, and secure connectivity in a space. They design the hardware, the firmware, build the software, manage deployments, and run support. It's a single integrated solution that scales from branch offices, warehouses, and large campuses to data centers. Book a demo at meter.com/CST. That's METER.com/CST.